Good evening and welcome again to our new unit on the development of a government in the United States. We are going to start with our first government, the Articles of Confederation, which was set up shortly after the Declaration of Independence. Our inquiry question is, what about the Articles of Confederation made them unsuccessful? So let's go with a little background. The founders wanted a weak government. They were afraid of big governments after being under the control of the British, and they didn't want to set up a government that would be very similar, where there was a huge national government that controlled the people. They also wanted to set up a government that was in the form of a republic. A republic is a government in which people choose representatives, like we have today, to govern themselves. So as citizens, we vote on the people that are going to go make the laws for us. In 1776, the Continental Congress passed a plan for a national government, which was called the Articles of Confederation. However, it can't become a government yet because it has to be approved by the states. The government would be run by the Continental Congress. These are the people that came up with the Declaration of Independence and had met prior to the American Revolution. However, before this could start, all 13 states had to approve the Articles of Confederation. And it wasn't until 1781 where it actually became the official government of the United States. Under the Articles of Confederation, the national government could wage war, they could make peace, sign treaties, and issue money. However, most of the power was left to the states. So why did it not succeed? It did not succeed because of some key weaknesses that, as we talk about, you'll see some negative impacts on how the government can run and be efficient. So the first key weakness under the Articles of Confederation is that the national government, so the federal government, had no power to tax. In other words, the government could pass a law saying that such and such was going to happen, but they did not have the money to enforce the laws or to carry out any part of the laws unless the states agreed to hand over money to the federal government. The national government could not force the states, though, to hand over that money. So this was a key weakness, as without money, the federal government or national government can't spend money. So if they can't tax to get the money, they can't spend the money. A second weakness was that there was no national military. All the military came from the states. So if there was a national emergency, there was no military to respond when needed. They had to call up each state and get the National Guard in each state or the militia in each state to rise up and agree to support whatever uprising or whatever military tactics that the national government wanted. It was also up to the states to support its own military. And this was seen at the time reasonable because many of the people did not want a military controlled by the national government out of the fear, similar to with Britain, that the government or military would be used to suppress its people. We'll see an example on Wednesday in class when we talk about Shays' Rebellion. Weakness number 3. The federal government could not regulate trade between states, meaning they could not control what was traded, how it was traded, or anything in that matter. Each state was allowed to create their own regulations. That means all 13 states could have different rules that had to be followed. So if I wanted to trade something to Massachusetts, I would have to follow different rules if I was trading with Georgia. So there's no consistency between states. This would make it very difficult to trade with foreign countries, and it would make it very hard and actually impossible for the federal government to prevent trading with any certain country if the federal government saw it as a threat to the nation. Weakness number 4. In order to change the Articles of Confederation, there had to be a 13-0. All 13 states had to vote to make the change. So if even one state disagreed with a change, it was not allowed to go through. It's very hard to get 100% of people to vote on any issue the exact same way. Therefore, it's almost impossible to change the Articles of Confederation. That's why, as we go through this week, we'll see they eventually get rid of the Articles of Confederation and establish the Constitution of the United States. Finally, weakness number 5. There is no president to enforce the laws, or no executive branch to enforce the laws. Today we have 3 branches of government. We have the executive, which is the president and all of his staff and agencies. We have the legislative, which is the House and the Senate. And we have the judicial, which is the judges. In the Articles, you don't have the executive. So Congress could pass laws, but there's nobody that was able to enforce them, no agencies to make sure that the laws actually went into place the way they were supposed to. There's also no person to stand up and be a leader during a crisis. There's no face of the country or national government that represented what the whole nation stood for. So as you come tomorrow to class, be prepared to think a little deeper about these weaknesses. You're going to discuss what would have been some possible solutions to these weaknesses. So think through that. We see these 5 weaknesses. There are also some others. There was no national court system, no national control over trade whatsoever, like I had mentioned. No president, no military, no power to tax. All of these. How could these problems be solved, do you think? What would be a fair way to solve them? And we'll get into that discussion tomorrow in class. Have a good evening.